Ron Szpatura here, Landmark Marketing, been in business almost 50 years, and it's been an exciting ride, an exciting venture, and we've learned a lot. We've diversified, updated, stayed in touch with modern technology to bring our company up to where we are today and look forward to continued success in the future. In the early years in direct sales and moving into management and training and developing a sales team, we built very rapidly from scratch a multi-million-dollar sales organization. And the owners of the company made a shift or a change in policy where they stopped continuing to promote people and expanded into new areas. At that time, one of the major recruiting aspects was to bring people in that would have an opportunity to be involved in expansion. And I guess when that change occurred, what happened was that a lot of the motivation people had to work hard and be given an opportunity to expand dissipated, and the culture went in somewhat of a negative direction. It became very hard to continue to manage a high-powered group of people that were not able to move up in the area that they wanted to. So at that point, I made the decision that if anything were to happen, that it was going to be my fault and not somebody else's fault. That I would basically be in control of my own destiny by making those decisions myself, and for better or worse, not be privy, I guess, to somebody else's thought process or decision. So that's when I started my own businesses and started building organizations that were built and owned by myself and other partners.
And what was the first business that you started, Ron?
The first business was called Professional Marketing Associates. We had an opportunity to utilize a unique concept in the mapping business, strangely enough, where we worked with Rand McNally and the other producers of maps to complement the product with advertising to do. And we actually created more revenue on the ad sales in our territory than Rand McNally was generating throughout the entire country. And they, of course, were the largest map maker in the business, but they really didn't have a handle on how to utilize the vehicle as an opportunity for people to advertise or market themselves. Sales has had a tremendous evolution over the 50 plus years that I've been involved. In the early days, there were essentially ways that in the American economy where Mary Kay and Fuller Brush and numerous companies sold directly to the consumer, and the direct calling was somewhat normal at that point in time. So that type of sales, which was an interesting learning curve. You had to learn to deal certainly with rejection, but the beauty, of course, is that there was no limit. You could work as hard or as long as you wanted to. So, that was a plus. The consistent aspect, which we'll talk about in some of our upcoming courses, is that one of the first things my sales manager drilled into us and said on a repeated basis, and I still remember today, was that people like to buy something they like from someone they like. And if you give that some thought, it's pretty uncomplicated, but really pretty true. that if you don't like somebody, you're unlikely to give them much of your time or attention. So people like to buy something they like from someone they like. So, when you're going door to door, you're cold calling, your first challenge, of course, is building some kind of trust or relationship
Yeah.
with the person whose door you're knocking on.
Mhm.
So, and that still holds true today, whether we use digital or any other form of marketing. It's people like to buy from people they like, know, and trust. Landmark of the Chesapeake began because of the relationship that we established in Annapolis with the founding of the Annapolis Visitors Bureau. And the Annapolis Visitors Bureau was comprised at that time largely of restaurant and, largely of hotel owners. And hotel owners felt that it would be of value to produce something in the hotel room of a high level of quality to orient people into the market area instead of just putting newspapers, magazines, brochures, and what came to be called clutter. And the idea was to put in one package, one beautifully done hardbound book, all the information that you need to enjoy your stay in the market area. Now, this was a service that you could find in 31 major cities, produced by a company called Guest Informant. And Guest Informant was 31 major cities in the US, multi-billion-dollar company. But areas like Annapolis, Richmond, Ocean City, the second-tier cities did not really generate the kind of potential revenue that were of interest to them. So we started in Annapolis, produced a book, printed and published in the room, in virtually every hotel room. The second year, when it came time to renew as an annual publication, we got 100% repeat business. So I realized that this was a tremendous opportunity. Where else could I go? And then expanded into my alma mater in Charlottesville, went to Ocean City, went to Richmond, went to Virginia Beach, went to Roanoke. Over a period of time, we expanded tenfold into 12 cities and had about 20 people working for the organization. So that was our publishing company. We were in, I think it was about 70,000 hotel rooms. And we told people that in the hotel rooms, every hotel room had two books. Ours is the one that people read. So the advertisers, we had sales reps in each area. It was a wonderful business until 2008, when we had a real downturn in the economy, coupled with the idea or the fact that people were shifting their buying patterns away from print ads into other digital forms of advertising. One of the things in my book that I point out, chapter 10, that I learned and try and share with people as a very important entrepreneurial piece of the puzzle is to know when to hold it, know when to fold it. Because every business, if you do it correct, you're going to reach a peak. You just don't know when you're at the peak. So when in 2005, I was offered, a company came along, I had a lot of resources, fairly global, and was offered to walk away with, maybe not walk away, I could stay there, but offered $1 million. I would have been a millionaire. I was a millionaire at that point, but I would have had $1 million in cash. 3-year consulting contract for a very substantial amount. But I said, hey, we got to $1 million. Let's get to $2 million. Let's get to $3 million. So in retrospect, little did I know that the landscape would change, and the better decision looking back would have been to fold them and take the cash and be more secure, and move on. The other thing to think about is that most people don't realize that how long it takes to grow and how short a period of time it takes to lose what you've got. So in that period of time, trying to save what I had, I used all the resources I had and went from a millionaire with 4 houses, 2 boats, and a pretty nice lifestyle to becoming to being $1 million in debt. So it's no small thing in terms of what effect it can have on your life, knowing when to hold it, knowing when to fold it. The concept of pivoting and changing your primary situation, or one of them, some of the pivots, there are positive pivots and there are negative pivots. Negative pivots you do because you're forced to do them because what you're doing is not working, and it's not a good place to be in. So with my publishing company, which for 20 years we generated 20-30 million in sales, really suffered because of the change in technology. When people that used to use and advertise in our in-room hotel publications felt that when people traveled, they tended to source information on their cell phone, information on their laptop, information that was supplied digitally more frequently, so that they didn't necessarily refer to that hardbound publication or the print medium that was in their room. Now, not that some percentage did not source it, but the reality was because of the technology change, we were not as valuable to the consumer or the advertiser. So that reduced our revenues by about 80% over the upcoming period. So there was a necessity to pivot, but the awareness and the working knowledge of how long do you try and go against the grain? How long do you swim against the tide and say, okay, we're going to make this work. We're just going to work harder and work harder, even though it's harder to be productive. There's a line there somewhere, and there's a very fine line. Looking back, in the ideal situation, you can maybe continue, if there's still some opportunity with the product that you have, you can continue to do that while you move into a more productive element to augment that situation and not be totally dependent upon something that has a declining interest in the market. Well, the biggest mistake that now that I'm more involved in helping people make better decisions for their future and pivot, the biggest mistake people make is that they don't pivot when they can pivot, when they should pivot. So many businesses, realtors, for example, we've had great success with Legal Shield, which is a great product that everybody should have and every business should have, that reduces your legal costs by about 80%. Realtors do extremely well because they have the relationships and they can leverage off that. We have many realtors that have doubled, tripled, quadrupled their income, adding that one service. It just baffles me that other people don't diversify and don't pivot into that additional service. Some people think they're a tree, and they can't move. And it's a big mistake because you could dramatically increase your income. You could create passive income in some senses with certain products and services. And you could protect yourself from a downturn in a service that might become obsolete not so far down the road. So the biggest challenge in pivoting is not pivoting. Now, when you do decide to pivot, the other challenge that we found over the years is the importance of understanding and what's involved with the pivot. When we pivoted into the deals business through Groupon, we didn't realize the importance of building an email subscriber list, and that was a whole new arena that we really had to become educated in quickly, because we could get people to sign up for the deals, so to speak, but Groupon had the money to generate hundreds of thousands of email subscribers fairly quickly, and the knowledge to do so. Yeah, that's a great question, because to me it's somewhat obvious that when you look around you, and just common sense, if you see a product or service. When I was with our hotel book, when I was in the city where in the room I saw them playing a presentation of what there was to do in the area on the television in the hotel room, I said, gosh, why can't we do that? We're calling on the same people. We just have to figure out the technology to get this placed in the room and produce the video. So there's so many different ways to make intelligent decisions. How high value markets. We also do work with a company called Celebrations, which is a friend owned by a friend of mine that has a database that he purchases that includes about 22 million people celebrating a birthday. Now, the thing is, when you think about it, it doesn't take a whole lot of thought. Most people, when they have a birthday, they go out to a restaurant. 70% of people, statistically, will go out and celebrate a birthday. The second reality is that they will tend to spend more, because most people don't go out to a restaurant to celebrate a birthday alone. They ask friends, family, their wife, and they tend to spend more. So with that company, I could see an obvious opportunity to make contact with restaurants and put them on this program where they're able to bring in people celebrating a birthday and get a well above average return on their investment, because you're reaching a high value market. When you talk about technology and the influence of technology on marketing, the changes are apparent, and the systems or the technologies that are available today are numerous to help in the marketing. I mean, you of course got MailChimp to do your mail, or Constant Contact to do your mailers. You've got Facebook to contact people. You've got your YouTube to get your outreach programs in technology are many and numerous, and each of those comes with a cost, and each of those comes with a learning curve. So if you're in most cases, what has happened is most companies, you don't really see a whole lot in the way of solo entrepreneurship in those areas, because it takes a great deal of knowledge and time to cross-platform 10, 12, 13, 14 different things. It's really overwhelming, and particularly for startup situations. And it actually makes all the sense in the world. And one of the fastest growing ones that also is we're involved with is called Go High Level. And with Go High Level, you can, for about the price in what I used to spend for one of those platforms, I can get access to 14 different platforms, and not only get access, but also cross
Integrate.
pollinate and integrate a lot of the efforts. And then, of course, the real move in our industry is in the ability to automate your practices. So instead of sending out a Facebook thing today, and then another one 2 days, another one in 3 days, I can do 13 of them, 14 of them at once, and have that done, and then automate it, and then forget about it. So the automation of activities and with the inclusion, of course, of artificial intelligence, everybody raves about IA, and artificial intelligence enables us to identify within that platform the best targets for us to invest our time and energy and money trying to influence. Well, again, the important thing is understanding that, that you're going to be a little bit on uncharted waters when you make these changes. So you're learning something new, you're implementing something new. And when you do that, it can be very costly, it can take a lot of time. So it's very important. I found that partnerships can be very important. That if you find somebody that knows what they're doing in a particular arena, you might say, okay, well, I've got X number of clients in this arena, and I love to make this another source of income, and maybe we could do a revenue share and work together. So revenue shares and partnerships are a tremendous way to expand and diversify instead of trying to figure it all out on yourself. It can be very costly and, again, time consuming, but it can be mutually beneficial if you're able to do it in a partnership. This other thing, of course, is mentorships and being able to learn from somebody who benefits from your learning to do that as well. Robert Kawasaki, I guess, has some great, very well respected, has some great articles and videos on the importance today of network marketing, where network marketing has a structure where the person that actually teaches you everything they know benefits from that, and so do you. So it's one of the unique business models that it allows people to benefit working together, as versus the more you get, the less I get, in the old traditional model of business in many cases. Well, one of the most important aspects of having built a multi-million-dollar organizations I have is to, I guess there's, as Zig Ziglar used to call it, the graveyard of words. One of the words in my graveyard is realistic, because I don't believe, people say, oh, what's realistic? Well, people accomplish unrealistic goals all the time. They just believe they can. There's two kinds of people that think they can and people that think they can't, and they're both right. So when you look at it, setting a goal, the key word, I think, is achievable. And if you say, well, what's the best that's currently being done in this particular area? So when you look at that, there's a perspective that you can put on, this is where I believe I can get over time. Now, will it take a year? Will it take 5 years? Will it take 3 years? That's the second part of the formula, of course, is, can I build this up to 5 million, 20 million, 10 million? What's the number I can go toward achieving? How long will it take? And then, of course, once I've established that, then the question is, what is it going to take to get there? What is the game plan that you really have to execute? And then after that, you're benchmarking. You're saying, okay, well, great. So over the next 3 months, we think we can get to here. Over the next 6 months, maybe we can get to there. So there is no limitation, of course, on most achievements. And in many cases, you look at companies, like Google, Apple, you look at what Jeff Bezos has accomplished. Who would have thought they would get to where they are? But, once you set your goals, then you put your action plan in, and the sky's the limit. Well, I think there's a lot of them, and I think the three that we're paying the most attention to. The three that I'm planning to be involved in. Number one is cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and all the other coins. I think that digital money is here to stay, and the returns on that have been higher than any other investment in history, I guess, compared to other possibilities. The other is certainly is artificial intelligence and its impact on all the things that we do and use. And since we're pretty much involved somewhat in the marketing end, using the artificial intelligence as an aspect of that. And so you've got that really is somehow involved with the chain aspect of the transition, the changes that might be taking place through blockchain. Looking forward is a little more complex than looking back, but you might surprise yourself if you look back 20 years and you see the things that didn't exist then that are absolutely essential today. I don't think people 20 years ago were using cell phones to get around. In many cases, they were using little computers that did these things. In the future years, it's just a matter of time before we don't drive cars. We just, the vision that people in that industry, I think, have is this time cars will be pretty much a time share aspect where you call up and the car shows up and it takes you where you want to go. And because cars are not used about 84% of the time right now. So we've got a lot of lost space in that respect. So, looking forward again, the changes are going to be dramatic, much bigger looking forward than they were going back. Well, very important question because, of course, the very, very difficult for people to be successful if they don't have a generally positive attitude about things. To achieve, you're going to be again on uncharted waters. One of the biggest things, again, and we've talked about, the aspect of failure, that in these days with technology today, failure is both necessary and a fleeting thing, because I believe in some ways you need to fail your way to success. So, you try something, you do it to the best of your ability, and you see the success that you can have in that particular arena. You want to pick opportunities where you have a high probability of success, and the success leaves clues. So when you look at looking forward, the changes that are coming, and you look at, there's plenty of leaders out there that are showing us what can be accomplished, but they all generally have, and it's not just positive attitude. Positive attitude is important, but another critically important word is vision. You have the vision aspect. I've always, when I built the publishing company up to a multi-million-dollar company, people said, when I would explain what the plan was and how we would be in 12 cities, and they said they kind of laughed. They used to call, if you read Ray Kroc's book about McDonald's, they called him Danny Dreamer. Nobody believed he would be in, I forget what the number is now, 30,000 McDonald's stores. He's just selling hamburgers, right? So who would have thought? So the vision that can come from, the attitude can create the vision, and with a positive attitude, you can see a bit forward and see things as they can be, not just see them for as they are.